Hello and welcome to this episode of Growing in Uncertainty. My name is Tess Miller. I'm a professional coach and I help professionals who are loving what they're doing, but they're not exactly sure where it's going. And I'm here with Amy Rosendall. She was a participant in the Hero's Journey group coaching experience from last summer. And I'm catching up with her on what's going on in her life and what she got out of that group coaching experience. So, Amy, why don't you tell everyone what it is that you allow to occupy your time?
Sure. So I am Amy. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico right now, where I got my master's degree in flute performance. And more recently, I got my certification in sound healing and music therapy. So I'm a sound healing practitioner. I use quartz crystal singing bowls, and I just recently got a gong too, which I'm incorporating. And then I'd also like to incorporate my flute eventually with that, but I'm still figuring that out. I think I need to grow a couple more arms or something, but so yeah, that's what I do. I'm very interested in spiritualism and energy healing. I'd really like to get my Reiki certification eventually, and my interests in the realms of spirituality are always shifting and changing, but it's nice to have so many interests.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we are both Virgo moons.
Yeah.
We discovered that. And
Yeah.
today is the new moon, by the way.
It is an Aquarius, right?
Yes, yes, it is. So, anyway, other than an invitation from me to join the group coaching experience, what else inspired you to want to join in the group coaching last summer?
Yeah, I always say that you have such magical timing in my life. I feel like you always come into it like right when I ask for some sort of guidance from the universe. And coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, last summer, we did this in July, I think.
Yeah.
The night before you reached out to me, I was journaling about how I just felt really stuck and I really needed some guidance. And I was kind of asking for help. And then the next day, I got this message from you. Hey, I'm doing this Hero's Journey course where we try to figure out how to get unstuck together. We're all musicians in the same kind of different situations, but we're all going through this pandemic together where, of course, we're feeling stuck. So I was very excited to participate, and I feel like I really got a lot out of it too.
Awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. I love that you were journaling about it. Very
You always
cool.
do that to me. Like I told you that the night before you invited me for this interview, I was journaling about how I wanted to be interviewed someday. You popped up again, so you're always there for me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad that I'm, open and attuned to that. That's really awesome. So, what was, if you feel comfortable sharing, what was going on in your life at the time, other than the pandemic,
Yeah.
that was kind of keeping you feeling stuck?
Yeah, at the time, this was before I got my certification in sound healing, and I had ideas that that's where I wanted to go. I got my master's degree in music, and I spent, of course, a long time doing that. And I think I had a lot of guilt and shame around the fact that I didn't really feel like that was my passion anymore. I still certainly love playing in ensembles. I love playing in orchestras and small ensembles. I love woodwind quintets, but solo performing was never my favorite. I always struggled with that, and I think because of that, I always found it really hard to practice the amount that I thought I should be. And I just wasn't really sure what direction I wanted to go with that. But I think, led down this spiritual path, for lack of a better term, where I was getting really interested in that field of knowledge. And I thought sound healing would be the perfect thing to combine the two. But I just wasn't really sure how to go about starting that. I had some ideas, but I think I was kind of frozen in fear. And then also, outside of my artistic career goals, I had recently left the coffee shop I've been working at for a long time. I really loved it there, but I felt like there was something next for me. So I had no idea what that was. I just needed a way to make money because, of course, I have all these artistic career goals, but it takes time to build that up, and I needed something to support me while I was working on that. So I wasn't sure what to do about that either. And I was just kind of in this weird pandemic gray area where I didn't know how to move forward because I felt like nothing was open for me, which turned out to be an illusion, you know? I think
Sure.
we create, everything. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and kudos to you for being so brave in looking at and acknowledging the fact that you had lost passion for something that you'd
Mm.
spent so much time and money on. I imagine, doing a bachelor's and a master's in music performance, and knowing that there were aspects of it that you really loved, but then also knowing about yourself, like, this doesn't quite fit, it doesn't feel right. It's not that I didn't get anything out of it. Like, I got so much out of that journey, but at the same time, I'm at a crossroads where there's something else. There's this spirituality, kind
Yeah,
of bubbling up within me that I want to look at a little bit more closely. And it sort of has something to do with what I did, but it also is pulling me in these new directions.
for sure.
So it is totally understandable to be, stuck because you have the pull of your past, but also the pull of the future.
Yeah, yeah. And I think a big part of that for me too was just realizing that I really didn't enjoy teaching as much as I wish I did. And I feel like as a performer, you almost have to teach, even if you have a position in an orchestra, you need something else to occupy your time and to support you financially. And for me, teaching didn't really feel like an option. So I'm still very interested in pursuing flute professionally, but I think the idea of having the sound healing on the side and that area of things instead of the teaching is really exciting for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so great that you created that opportunity for yourself,
Yeah.
knowing your interests and strengths and
Yeah.
deciding, I'm doing this. I'm going to become a sound healer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what did you think that you would get out of the hero's journey experience going into it?
Yeah. I think for me, I really struggle with integrity when it comes to myself. Usually for other people, if I tell someone I'm going to do something, I can do it. But with me, if I'm the only one holding myself accountable, I really struggle. And I have been interested in areas of self improvement, especially since I moved out to New Mexico. And I've been reading all sorts of books. I know we're interested in a lot of the same texts and teachers like Ram Dass, Eckhart Tolle. Um, and I would be reading that stuff and understand it on this kind of logical level, but I'd have a really hard time actually applying it to my life. And I think what I found out really works for me is when I have a person or a group of people that are there to hold me accountable and to really kind of like cheer me on and help me realize what's possible for me. So in this Hero's Journey group, I think I had a lot of ideas of ways I could move forward and things I felt like I needed to do, but I just couldn't really get myself to do them. And when there was a group of people, and I think seeing other people make big changes for their own lives too, just really gets in my head, and it makes me realize what's possible. And it also makes me want to come back the next week with this like new exciting news, like look what I did, you know. So I think when you asked me to do the hero's journey, I was like, this is perfect. This is what I need, a group of, you know, like-minded people that I can be vulnerable and authentic around. And that was very much the case with this group.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
and piggybacking too on your own awareness that in your performance career, you
Mm-hmm.
enjoy playing with groups. You
Yeah.
love that collaboration, that give and take. So, of course, it would spill over into
Yeah.
other things too.
That's very true. That's a really good point. I actually hadn't thought about it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's so cool. So, what surprised you most going through the experience?
Hmm. I think I was surprised at my own ability to be brave and take these steps forward. I think that was also the hardest part. Having a group to hold me accountable, while it's really helpful, it's also really scary because I was like, dang, I'm going to actually have to do things that make me uncomfortable and don't feel safe. So I was surprised in the ways that I showed up. And I think I was also surprised in the ways that the way you framed these ideas that I already kind of had in my head um, really were able to get through to me on a different level and make sense to me in new ways. Um, like I said earlier, I think I have this way of understanding things logically, but I just like still can't apply them for some reason. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But yeah.
Yeah, totally. Something that came up often in the group is that, we might be talking about an idea,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, you guys would bounce ideas off of each other, and all, you'd see like, oh yeah, I
Yeah.
totally know what you're talking about. And sometimes it does take that group dynamic to really help you, take it past the logical stage and really integrate it into more of an internal knowing, like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I think there's those things we know, and then there's the things that we know we don't know. But then there's a whole nother area of things, which is the largest area of the things that we don't know. And if you don't know you don't know them, it's hard to expect them to be there. So I'm always really surprised to find out those things. And it feels like something opens up. It feels like a big breakthrough, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. What was challenging or difficult for you during the experience?
Yeah, I think what I said in my last answer, just this idea of knowing that I had people holding me accountable and knowing that I was going to have to challenge myself. I think that a lot of people just feel really safe being small. And I think I keep myself very small in a lot of ways, and that's something I still struggle with. Um, but having a group of people hold you accountable really makes it so that you have to push through and you have to challenge yourself and do these uncomfortable things. And that, of course, isn't fun all the time. Um, Especially, I think, as a people pleaser. Like, I'm sure both of us have struggled with. We're so similar in so many parts of our personality, but um, sometimes to make big strides forward with yourself, you have to sort of disappoint other people. And sometimes you have the illusion that you're going to disappoint other people, and then when you actually do it, they're happy for you. So I think the hardest part was just recognizing that I am a being with agency and I am the protagonist in my own story, and I need to be the one who does this for myself. Nobody else can do it for me. And yeah, it's difficult to, rewire your brain to think differently.
Oh, yeah, of course. Especially when, those habits of always looking out for how other people are responding to what you're doing or saying. Like, it's like a groove. You get stuck in that groove, and to get out of it feels so unnatural. It's, it's a muscle that you have to really build up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just really, fantastic awareness on your part of, that process, the challenge that can come up when you are stepping out of your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
What, let's see. We were having a conversation prior to this this interview, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to frame this next question, because it's going to take us in a little bit different direction. What has happened for you in the time since the group coaching experience?
Yeah. So I was talking to Tess before this interview about how I was feeling pretty anxious about it, because I'm at this area in my life yet again where I'm feeling very stuck. And the thing I realized is that, well, yes, I am stuck. It's with a completely different set of circumstances that I was stuck with during the Hero's Journey course. And I think I had this illusion that Tess was about to interview me as this girl who used to be stuck, but I've pushed through, and now I'm confident forever, and I'm in control of my life. And I think that's an illusion most humans have, that we'll eventually get to this place where we're happy forever and we feel fulfilled and we'll never have any more problems. And that's not true, and it really made me think, what does the hero's journey mean to me? And I think so much of it is being able to recognize yourself as a being with agency, the protagonist, your own story, and also you're going down this path that doesn't exist. It hasn't been paved yet. And if it was paved, it wouldn't be your path, So you're going to encounter these blockages and these boulders. And when you have a set of tools in your toolbox, it's much easier to get through those blockages. So I didn't want to appear as a bad example of what Tessa's services have to offer, because I think they are very transformational, but I think it's also an illusion to think that you'll never be stuck again. And this has also made me realize that I do have the tools in my toolbox, and I think many times I just forget to use them. So this interview in itself has been a great reminder that I do have the power to change my own reality, and it is uncomfortable, but I've done it before in the past. I've done uncomfortable things, and I can do them again. So, yeah. I'm in this place where I'm trying to figure out what's next, and I think that is going to happen over and over again. And I think, like you said earlier before this interview, how boring would it be if we did have it all figured out in our 20s, Yeah.
Yeah. And I just absolutely loved that you were able to be vulnerable with that, because it can be such an unsettling thing to realize, oh no, I still don't have it figured out, and I so desperately want other people to think that I have it figured out, or I want to, I want to have it figured out. I really do. And the reality of life is that we kind of weave in and out of these moments of stuck, and come at it, or come through it in, with different circumstances. Like it can look different, and yet it can feel so much the same. Like, oh no, here we go again. So what tools do you, or maybe just one tool at least, what one tool do you feel like you have used in the past when you've been stuck that helps you the most in those stuck moments?
I think that something I really started doing during a hero's journey that I've kept with me is to make lists. Because I think something I really struggle with is that I feel like my brain is just messy. It's all tangled up. I never know what's going on in there. There's so many different voices. I don't know which one to listen to. But if I can write it all down on paper and just get it out, things start to appear in a much more logical way. And I have sort of mini little breakthroughs that I didn't expect to come up. And I think unless you create a space for that to come up, it probably won't. So making lists, especially like pros and cons lists about what I'm doing, how it's working, how it might not be serving me, has been really helpful. And I think another thing I got from your hero's journey that I really remember, I was talking about those voices in my head. I know you did a video about this recently, about that particularly mean voice you have in your head, and how you gave it a name. I can't remember what it was.
Oh gosh. I can't remember if it was like Negative Nelly. I don't know. I have all kinds of names for for my mean voices.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I think something that I really used to do before your course was that I used to be mean back to it. I'd be like, I don't need you right now. Go away. You're not serving me. But something that you made me think more deeply about was, where does that voice stem from? And I started thinking of it more as an inner child, who is trying to protect me and is trying to keep me safe. And I think that she really just needs to be nurtured. And if I provide space to listen to what she needs, then, she quiets down, and I can remind her, I know that you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm a 27-year-old adult now. I am safe. I know what I'm doing. I'm in a different set of circumstances, and I can do it. So I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I got, and one of the biggest tools that I've kind of kept with me. Yeah.
That's so powerful, and again, brave. I know I keep using that word, but it really is, because when that inner child is screaming for attention, the natural response is to look away, to ignore it, to say, just go away, leave me alone, come back later, just don't come back at all. So the fact that you can stop and say, okay, what's going on here? What do you need right now? And reassuring it, you're reassuring an inner part of yourself that's feeling really scared and vulnerable, and really telling it, I've got this. I really do. I got this.
Yeah, I think that was incredibly helpful for me. I think you know, the the least I need is more meanness in there. So if I just nurture every different part of myself that's screaming to me, I think it creates a much more loving environment, we're stuck in there all the time. So we might as well make it a place that we enjoy.
That's so true. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're in constant quarantine with ourselves, right? Like so what do you think you learned most about yourself in the hero's journey experience that you think you're going to travel with for the long term in your life?
Ooh, I think that I really struggle to change my habits and my conditioning like a lot of humans do. It's almost like you have to psychically kill like a past version of yourself to be able to step forward and move into what's possible for you. And I think in your hero's journey course, I saw a glimpse of what is possible for me and how I can self-advocate for myself in ways that I didn't think were possible before. And I think that I've learned that that's an aspect of myself that I can step into. I know that I've seen myself do it in the past. So to think that I can't do it in the future and that I'm always stuck in this timid, small version of Amy is just another illusion that I've created for myself. Mm-hmm. So it's always very helpful to see glimpses of what's possible for you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so great. So you may know this already, but I have a focus word for 2021. And my focus word for this year is freedom. And I'm, trying to learn all about this word from different facets, different points of view. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, how has your sense of freedom been affected or shaped by what you gained or learned from the group coaching experience?
Ooh, yeah, I think that another thing that was really transformative for me was the realization that I had a lot of hesitation about going into sound healing because I was worried about people's perceptions. Because I know it's weird, for a lot of people. And I was really worried that people were going to think I was weird. And I think I got a sense of the feeling of being free to be myself and to not worry so much about what people think. Because a lot of times it's like an imaginary person that doesn't even exist, whose judgment that you're making up in your own head. It's other aspects of yourself judging yourself. When really I've noticed when I take a step forward into stepping into my own authenticity, the people who really love me and support me are happy for me. And maybe they're judging me silently in their head. And that's okay. We're all judging each other silently in our heads. And we're all working, hopefully, toward a place with less judgment. But I think that it really inspired me to care less about what people think and step into my authenticity and feel free to be myself. And when I do that, usually I get positive reactions from people. And I think it also opens a space for other people to do the same thing. So, yeah.
That's so great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you would like to add?
I don't think So, but I did want to thank you so much for inviting me on here. I love watching these videos every week, so it's really exciting to be a part of it.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, I'm so grateful that you wanted to take part in this and especially share with people, the fact that stuck is something that can come at any time and throughout our lives, and it sounds like you're using your bravery to work through it, and every single time you do, you're growing and developing and learning about new parts of yourself and incorporating a lot of those things that kind of sit around in your logical brain, but really integrating those into what you practice on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So
And I'm glad we did this. I think that it can be really helpful for people to see examples of other people who are stuck because it makes it feel more normal. But I think something that's helpful for me to think about is that while it might feel like your progress is like this, it's really more like this, you know? So,
yeah.
and I think it's because um, I have those tools, you know, from doing things like your workshop. So yeah, thank
Yay.
you so much for everything.
You are so welcome. And thank you. Is there a way, if people are interested in your sound healing, is there a way that they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm in the process of building a website. I've actually been thinking a lot more about that this week. So I don't have a website yet, but you can find me. I'm usually the most active on Instagram, which is just my first and last name, no spaces, just Amy Rosendall. And I'm also on Facebook, so you could message me there. And yeah, I'm doing sound healing sessions for people on Zoom right now, which has been really great.
Neat. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. And this concludes this episode of Growing in Uncertainty. Have a great week, everyone.